It is 12 months since the Ruto administration started collecting the controversial housing levy. The reports coming from this project is a puzzle of unsold houses, government not able to collect the intended rent from already existing government houses. Some of the projects have stalled in spite of that collection, and the puzzle of multi-million stalled government housing projects that continue to milk taxpayers' money. Welcome to The Bold, and I want us to delve deep into the housing levy. It will go down in history that housing levy was one of the Ruto projects that received greatest condemnation. And I kept on saying that because this is a project that is going on, the opposition circles needed to continue reminding Kenyans on what exactly happened. Now, the Nation team decided to delve deep into this, and the information coming is very astonishing. Kenyans have boycotted that housing levy, and we'll interrogate more about this. In Shimulatewa prison, when some 39 warders grew impatient with a stalled housing project in the area, they decided to use their money to install doors and moved into the houses even without water and electricity. The Auditor General of releasing the report of end of June 2023, Nancy Gadungu, says that that project was told when it was 90% complete. The tender was cancelled, and after it was cancelled, it was given to someone else who received money, but that project never completed. It was never finished to its logical conclusion. Of course, the tender was at the center of these projects is also something that has derailed the success of it. And it's because interests are invested in it. You know, I said that apart from the political explanation from the president and the team, that affordable housing was just supposed to create jobs. It was also an opportunity for the political class to mint some coins. But despite of the promise and the statement in public by the president that his intention is to create jobs, the other one was about owning houses or people owning their own houses. Why are Kenyans not owning those houses? Why are they not turning up maybe to buy the houses? And those buildings were actually occupied by warders. They're incomplete. They've just bought their own locks without tiles and even the final paint. And they've occupied those houses because they remain incomplete. Now, this started even before the Ruto administration. So, when we were talking about continuity, instead of taking money and going to start all manner of foundations in counties, the first thing that Kenya Kwanza needed to do was just to complete those projects that Uhuru Kenyatta started. And that would be, but of course someone needed to show optics of, I am building in Meru, I am building in Tharaka Nithi, I'm building in Kisii, I'm building where. So that was the objective. This report is also saying that at the Kenya Development Corporation, price cuts for Oceania and Zamia apartments in Mombasa have not enticed people to buy the units that were developed. And the National Housing Corporation has equally been stuck with 1.3 billion unsold houses for a year now, with the State Department for Housing struggling even to manage other government houses. I can tell you, it is not even failing to manage. The government, the people that are supposed to manage these houses are taking this money. Not that someone is saying someone is not paying rent. People are taking that money. And probably they have to say what it is. President Ruto has held into this ambition of building 200,000 houses. Many of us questioned whether that was unrealistic. We questioned that was unrealistic. Number two, we also argued that, is the market really in need of it? Is the housing project, is a housing problem, availability of houses, or an income problem. And people argued, instead of building for us houses, just create an conducive environment for us. We'll be able to make money, and when we bake our own cake, we can be able to construct our houses. In fact, a definition of a house is very different. You know, for example, me, if I need a home, going to stay in that one, going to buy an apartment, that one 2-bedroom inside, that might not be an ideal definition of a home. My home will be my own compound where I stay alone, and you know, people will want it that way. But government will hear anything of like that. The public agencies charged with managing the state housing schemes are piling stocks of unsold units, a trend that is sounding a warning on possible similar problems in the coming days. The National Housing Corporation, for instance, constructed 2,596 houses valued at 2.8 billion from 2019 to 2023. But the Auditor General reveals that by the end of June 2023, new National Housing Corporation's unsold houses was valued at 1.28 billion, questioning the value of the money put in the housing schemes. And it's now coming clearly that the audit is saying that many Kenyans have kept off those housing units. The units are no longer enticing to the rest of the population, while the project is actually going on. With the target of 100,000 houses to be built by 2027 as it positions itself, a key plan implementation is saying that ongoing projects across 17 counties does not really indicate, there is no sign that the project is going to receive a good boost as was intended. Oh, I can tell you, if there is a problem, if there is a program that William Ruto defended the tooth and nail, it was affordable housing, until Kenyans started doubting, is it really houses being built for us, or someone is just eyeing the cash? People started doubting whether it is houses. You know, someone wants to build for you a house, and you're saying, I don't want the house. They're saying, we have it. We don't want the house. And here is an employee supposed to contribute, and then employee supposed to contribute, then an employee is matching the contribution of the employee. And many people did not welcome, and in fact, it was even reducing the disposable income in people's payslip. So Kenyans, the report now is coming, is heartbreaking, that Kenyans have kept off those houses. And now the rate of uptake, in fact, you'll realize nowadays that President Ruto stopped talking about two projects. He stopped talking about housing levy, and now on the issue of affordable housing, initially he used to say it is supposed to create jobs to our people. Now, I listened to his speeches recently. He's no longer talking about the project creating jobs. He's only talking about the digital jobs. But now on affordable housing creating jobs, that has really been dropped down. So there's some reasons, or rather the factors, that has created the disdain, because the public has developed some disdain from these projects. I want to look at it in this manner, because this is the real thing. If people are saying we don't want the houses, and you insisted you are building for them the houses, then probably you also got it wrong at some point. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our videos. But then we really want to have a feel of what exactly is it. What exactly is the challenge, especially. You see, this was targeting, this was targeting, there was even some social houses that were supposed to target Mama Mboga pale chini. Then there were some, I don't know, there were different categories of houses. Is there any that kama mtu anaishi kwa social housing, is there any that you're living in? Because even up to date, the affordable, that money is still being collected. That money is still being collected. If you ask people, the payslip guys, they will tell you that money is still being collected. Now, what has affected this project is both technical of course, in terms of the legal implications, or rather the legal queries, the other borders market demand, and the other thing is just the politics in it. So I divided it into three. Now, the first bit is the housing levy litigation. You know, what was expected? Number one, the project started from a wrong footing because the government was supposed to provide land, and Kenyans asked, why are you giving public land for an investor? Because, you know, the architecture, the model was that you give public land to an investor to build that house with, of course, a reasoning that because I've given you land to construct the house, so one factor of production, because the cost of land is a big issue in housing, because I have reduced to you the cost of land because I'm giving you public land for free, so you will be able to give the houses, rather to sell houses at an affordable rate. There was also understanding of, you know, reducing the import. When you buy cement from some companies, there was some incentives that were to be there. And the government was supposed to establish some models in it. So the housing levy received litigation. And Kenyans were really questioning why we are using public land for this project. Why we are paying public land. And some activists are in court challenging it. You will also understand that in everything, a government project, there have always been some inconsistency. You know, we said that in Kakamega, in Mavoko, and I think some areas, even in Sambweni, there are some houses that were brought down and people displaced, people chased from that land, from some areas of land, under a pretense that we want to build affordable housing. But some people already established their houses there. These are the same people you target for that market. So it created a bad perception, and the issue of land made people fear that probably I can buy that land, and after some time I will get it. So it is the first bit of it on the litigation in it, and the number of court cases that have been going on. Kenyans have some hope that probably if there will be a change of regime or policy change, then money will go down the drain. So there is a little bit of litigation, the litigation roadblocks. It made Kenyans to reason around it, that it was not going to be possible. Then the second thing is the business model in it. You know, you cannot take public money and you want to trade with it. The truth of the matter here is, and let's understand, maybe understand how, maybe if it changed, but the initial plan was the housing levy, it was not supposed to build houses. It was money to be pooled somewhere, it's kept, but it is supposed to give investors confidence. The people that are supposed to establish the houses are supposed to be investors. But after investor, so when the money is there, investor is getting confidence that he will get the value for his investment. So that if a house is affordable housing unit is established and people, there is a market problem, they will be repaid, then government take the key and then manage the house. That was the understanding. But now the business model in it was not convincing. In this, how long it will take for me to own the house. You know, yes, people want to own the house, especially doctors, teachers, people who are in permanent, of course. They will want to own the house. But you could not see the house inside. You cannot see the house. What people are seeing is a scandal. Because you will scoop back the money. Those who've been paying will get a priority. The housing levy is not a guarantee. The 10% in it, you know, so it turned a bit of a business. And let me tell you, the business model failed. Even if the government gave land for free, but the other factors of production, rather to produce that house, remained a factor. There is inflation here. So the cost of cement, the other things that are needed to establish that house, or even the cost of, government was supposed to provide social amenities there. So we'll ensure that electricity is well connected there, there is availability of water, that the roads are in good shape, that the schools and the hospitals are established around that place. So I think that's also one thing we didn't pay attention to. As much as we said it was on paper that government was going to build roads and do this and that, it was not clear. We did have a legal framework on these establishments because there is a totally different model of establishing which roads are going to be constructed this financial year. And if you go to parliament in the budget making process, the issue of housing levy project featuring as one of the factors to establish which road is to be constructed, it's totally different thing. Sometimes the reason why government is constructing roads is because it was promised during the campaign trail, and he wants to entice some section of the voters. So the social amenities that were supposed to be constructed in Badan were lacking. That is why even the people cannot occupy, because no one wants to live in a good house that is in a desert. People don't really take that. Number 4, the data on the market demand was misrepresented. And I am wrong, I may be wrong on this, but I feel it was done intentional. Because these people knew if you started affordable housing in 2023 and houses that were built in 2019 are still unsold or unoccupied, then really the demand, the market demand we were talking about could not be met. Or rather, the data was compromised, or what we believed was not it. And this is what I think. We cannot be having incomplete houses, unsold houses, if really the demand that we really said was there is there. Because what was presented was that, every part, the middle class, the rich, and the guys at the lower part of the pyramid are going to get it. But no one is taking. Why? No one wants to buy a house from government. I think that's it. Even to date, people are taking mortgage, but they rather mortgage from private proprietors than going the government way. There is a lot of mistrust with Ruto administration, and this has created it. And of course, I think the stakeholders that were behind this should be held accountable, because people cannot be contributing money, then it just goes that way, unless we are saying that we were doing it for optics, which brings me to point number 6. When Ruto administration came to power, they were looking for something. Okay, so Uhuru had done roads, Uhuru had done some bridges, Uhuru had done expressway, Uhuru had done SGR, Uhuru had done there were so many things. But Ruto wanted to achieve something with it. I don't see that it was all about the creation of jobs. Because fine, you've created some token, some hundreds, some tens of jobs here and there. Then after that, what next? If people are not occupying their houses. So the money is not being scooped. The investors are not getting back the money. And it's a bit of it. Ruto wanted the optics for politics. You will see the launching of those affordable housing units. There have been, been a lot of money spent when the president visits there. When the president visits a county, it's almost predictable what he's going to do. 1, he's going to lay some foundation stone into some affordable housing. Number 2, he's going to attend some polytechnic, nearest polytechnic there. 3, he's going to a market and talking about some 50 million set up for construction of a market. And probably 4, some CDF school, some project done by CDF in school. He just mirrors around, then there could be a water project in the neighborhood or rather in the village. Just those ones. And people have been saying that those Kalongolongo projects, some of them are supposed to be by CS or by the MP. And I think the whole housing levy or the whole housing project was birthed not with very clear intention. The intention was to swindle money. People wanted to get some money, and in fact it might go to the history as one of the most scandalous projects in Kenya Kwanza, if not well managed. Now Kenyans are still asking other questions. Some 3 years from today, Kenyans will be asking, where are the houses? Where are the houses? You know, if you're building 200,000 or even 100,000 houses in this country, then really people living in those houses it should show. But while do we build and we don't complete, we fight over tenders, so they are abandoned. We build them in some remote areas where you cannot. So it's not just a matter of building. You know, there's some areas where they say we are building there so that youths are going to get jobs. But listen, after you do some affordable housing units in Homa Bay, then they are finished. Then you realize the capacity for Migori can only be 10,000. So you've only done 10,000. So you cannot do more than 10,000 looking at the demand. So I think instead of just talking, or rather being dishonest about we are creating jobs, we should go back and evaluate what exactly is in that project. It was said it's supposed to eradicate slums. So which is an inch? Tell me an inch of a slum that has been reduced by affordable housing. Otherwise, I think people should be held accountable for the best. Thank you.